Hello, Christopher. How are you tonight?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Everybody, let's see here. Let's get chat. Is chat going? We'll get the chat up here. There we go. We have Kim Ford, Luis, Pamela, Shelley. Welcome everybody to Q2 Hour. Tonight we have a special guest, James Annitto. We're going to get him on the screen. How is everybody tonight? Everybody good? At the top of the show, we want to remind everybody we do have chat rules tonight because this is a live audience. No profanity, keep it clean, don't be rude, respect boundaries, be accepting, and don't self promote. And at the top of the show, also, we want to thank last show's top star senders. We're going to give you a Mother's Day card tonight for that. And here are last week's top star senders. All right, again, those of you who were top star senders last week, you are getting $10 Mother's Day gift cards for our online shop. Chris, are you ready to bring James in? Are you going to highlight chats for me tonight?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's bring, I see Amanda in here. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Michaela. All right, we're going to bring in our special guest tonight, Mr. James Annitto. Hello. Welcome to Q2 Hour, James.
Thank you guys for having me. I look forward to this interview. You guys had some great guests, and hopefully I could be one as well.
And yes, we thank you for coming on. If anybody has noticed Annabelle sitting with Chris tonight, has anybody noticed that? That's actual. Well, it's not. It's a replica, but it's not a graphic. She's actually sitting there. Are you going to let Annabelle help you with the show tonight? Yeah. Thank you, Michaela. We all are safe. We had a flash flood last night, so hello, Miss Bev. Hello, Lena. All right. So as you can see, the chat's up on the screen, James, and Chris is going to highlight our Star Centers chat throughout the show. So let's start out by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
This is the most awful part of the whole interview because I hate speaking about myself. But yes, my name is James Annitto. I am a renowned demonologist. I am co-founder and director of Presidium Warriors of St. Michael. I have been a paranormal investigator. It'll be going on 20 years this June, since 2004. And I have traveled the country investigating all forms of the paranormal. So cryptids, ufology, ghosts, demons. I've also traveled across the seas to Romania and did a 11-day tour for a group of audience following Vlad the Impaler's footsteps and tragedies, and also investigating locations of folklore. And yeah, but basically, like I said, been doing this for 20 years. Had a lot of ups and downs. Learned a lot of things. Disregarded a lot of things. But I also am a psychology major, and I do work with a parapsychology group out of Canada and New England, PPRI. So I have my feet dipped into a lot of buckets of water, so to say, and I wear many hats. I'm a father of two little boys that are amazing. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about myself. I feel like the questions or our conversation will develop more of who I am. Like I said, I hate talking about myself. Yes, I've had a lot of accomplishments, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've been speaking for 12 years on the topic of demonology throughout the whole country. My expertise is demonology, but I'm very well versed in all spectrums of the paranormal and also social sciences as well. and I love science. Can't complain about science. Well, you can, but I won't.
When I was in school, I hated science, but now I love it for some reason. I wish I would have paid attention more in school to science. Thank you, Amanda, for the stars. Chris, you need to get her in the bucket 4 times for the entries. We do play games here tonight, James. Once in a
That's cool.
while, we will play a sound, and when that sound goes off, guys, the first person to say Q2 hour on our screen in our Facebook comments. Now, you guys have to be in Facebook, not YouTube or anything, because we only really look at our Facebook comments. First person to say Q2R, when you hear this noise, when you hear that noise, the first one to say Q2R, you get a prize over prize bucket. We like to keep it fun around here, James. We're not professional in any way,
Uh, you're totally good.
but our fans enjoy it. So, what got you into demonology and the paranormal? Is there anything in particular that got you into this?
I always say, I've been doing interviews for a very long time, so it's the old same nitty gritty story that people that follow me. But I never had paranormal experiences. It wasn't even the paranormal that generally got me into this kind of a bandwagon, so to say, of a field. And I don't know. It's like really what kind of got me into it was the fact that I was dealing with childhood trauma in the sense that I was left on the side of the street by my biological father, got adopted, was raised by a Lutheran family, and they would take me to church. And of course, I would hear the stories of what had happened to me. And then being in church, I'm hearing these things, especially when I could become cognitive and understanding of what I'm hearing and the messages being stated. And I started questioning reality. I started questioning what people believe in the dichotomy of good versus evil. I really got very heavily involved in researching biology. I was a very big neo-Darwinist back in the day, which is theory of evolution. And I really then started digging deep into my books. When actually libraries were very predominant before the internet. I would go to libraries, read every single book that I could about demons, angels, God, theology, um, and then of course science academic books as well. Which of course, as a young kid, you really could barely swallow that pill to what you're reading and have a lack of understanding. But I did everything in my power to try to have a good understanding of why uh, people tout God, and I went through this as a child. So it really wasn't anything like spectacular. I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night and seeing, the demon from Insidious or anything like that. But I think my story is prolific in the sense because I come from a different uh, cloth than a lot of people that I meet in this field, where they have had experiences or maybe a show interests them. The shows did interest me. I loved Scooby Doo. I always say it's one of my favorite shows when it relates to this. But there's Leonard Nimoy in Search of Unsolved Mysteries. So yes, the shows did also have a testament to the ability of getting me involved in this. But demonology more so basis is from my interest in theology. And when I started actively getting in this field, I was 14, on the cusp of 15 years old. And I started investigating because of a prolific show in Rhode Island called Ghost Hunters. So that I realized, okay, this isn't just a phenomenon that's written by literature or just on these shows. People actually go out and investigate real time. It's not just this spoken about effort through novels, And I really, it really just caught me, especially living in Rhode Island. It was kind of like a light bulb went off, and I started going into legendary surroundings, places that maybe I should have not gone in, but I wanted a fix. And maybe I would say I could have had experiences, but I really was so uh, I was gullible and imaginative as a child. Of course, I think all of us are. But I think I look back at now. I don't think any of them were really legitimate experiences. I think it was just more the fight or flight syndrome that was occurring, and I really wanted to be scared. Also wanted there to be proof to it, but um, I was in the military and had a prolific. I like to use the word prolific, I guess tonight, but I had a prolific experience where I actually turned 180 and from being anti-religious and anti-God, I actually was baptized, which was kind of like a flick of the finger sort of situation. And when I was in the military when this happened, and when I got out of the military and went back home from basic and AIT, I well, had a different perception of God, and I actually started getting heavily into the realm of the paranormal, investigating. Work Founded my own team called Ghost. I think at 19 years old, Ghost Hunters of Supernatural Truth, or 19 or 20 years old, I forget. And then really, kind of what led me is during that period, I was also a pastoral assistant at my local Church of Christ Church in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And being a pastoral assistant and then being involved in the paranormal, I came to a realization where investigating was not good enough anymore. My group started doing residential cases, and there was a case that we came across that really collecting that data and saying, "Hey, yes, we believe that you're telling the truth, that you're dealing with some sort of unknown phenomenon that we have taught to a degree, and this validates you." But we came across a client that validation wasn't just good enough. They wanted help beyond that, right? They wanted a blessing or cleansing or deliverance of the home, whatever you want to call it. There's many different usages of the word that you can apply to ridding a spirit from a home or crossing them over. So that really was the launching point for getting involved in demonology and then also applying ministry into the paranormal as well, because I really didn't want to be that guy that just said, "Okay, yeah, you have ghosts," and then leave, and they still suffer because they're still scared, they're still haunted by the haunting, and that was really like the catapult kind of that set me forward into where I am many years later, where a lot of people look at me as a specialist or I hate the word expert to any degree in any field, but people look at me in the sense of that I know what the hell I'm talking about, which, maybe I do or I don't, but, I've come a long way. I've done a lot of research with working with a lot of people, but, I think that I was put on this path for a reason. That's non-egocentric, but I think I was put on this path for a reason at that moment, and all my childhood trauma that I went through was kind of trials and tribulations to get me to where I am, and understand where people are going through when it comes to trauma with a haunting or trauma in life when I'm dealing with them, because trauma can be prolific in a haunting with individuals. So I think every hurdle that I faced was for a reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed being in this field, we haven't been in the field nearly as long as you have, but one thing I have noticed is a lot of people that end up in this field who are investigators and things, we do all have trauma, it seems, childhood trauma. I've noticed that. What do you think, Chris?
Yes, I'd have to agree.
Yeah.
And, so do you think that that attracts, um, kind of attachments or anything? Or do you think that people like that are more susceptible to negative, spirits?
Yeah, so I would say I have one like thing that I don't waver from, and I do believe in God, and my love for God is a very powerful or higher power, whatever one people want to call it. It's very continuous in multiple belief system, Abrahamic or even paganism. We all have an idea of higher power to an understanding. So that's one thing that's unwavering. But when it comes to the paranormal, there's so many theories, so many things of speculation that you can attest to. I do think that trauma can be prevalent, is prevalent in 90% if not more cases that you deal with, because there's a relation either to the spirit having that same emotion or feeling when they were alive, and going to that individual because they sense that same emotion, and communicating, which then scares the individual because they don't know what's going on. The unknown scares the human mind. It's just something that is been observed through the psychological lens, social science lens. And I also think that people with trauma tend to sometimes also be very more imaginative and more gullible. So I think there's also the spectrum to where that in a parapsychological sense that we can create thought forms based on our own reality, that we want something to be there with us, and sometimes that our emotions dictate these things we create, these thought forms, poltergeist, tulpa, egregore, whatever you want, a word you want to use, that we formulate something. But I also think it can also as well lead to a hallucination or an imaginative reality where you're dealing with something but you're not, when you're not either schizophrenic or bipolar or have a psychosis issue, but you still can create this reality and not to be honestly true, where there's no no psychokinetic energy happening. And so trauma is prevalent, but even in the dark cases, I always say that demons, that is the lure, right? They will molest. I hate to use that word, but that is the right word to use when it comes to demonic entity with the spirit or person. They will molest that individual's emotions, their faith, and every case that I've tend to that has been legitimate in my conclusion, that there was trauma prevalent, in that the demon used that trauma to break them down and affect them greatly. And like you said, attachments as well. You can say that as a spirit. Spirit follows you because they feel that they can either utilize that against you and feed off of you, or they feel comfortable with you and can relate to you. So there's many different spectrums of that. And I think it's very fascinating how much the human component is important to this. Charles Dickens, a prolific, once again, use the word prolific. I'll see how many times I use this. I'll be a record. Maybe I'll give you like 10 stars or something like that, or whatever, if I say it over 10 times. Um, but Charles Dickens, who was famously known for many of his writings, was also a ghost hunter in his time in the late 1800s with a group called the Ghost Club, which also had Charles Babbage, who was the godfather of computers. And Charles Dickens wrote in one of his first writings, which was a pamphlet called Haunted House. He says that the house isn't haunted until the person walks into the house. Then it becomes haunted because then the person activates it like a battery, right? So there is no haunting without the human component. We are that battery. So our trauma is that battery, or our thought is the battery. So there's a lot of levels to that, and that was thought about in late 1800s, and also has been talked about by other famous philosophers, and even people like Hippocrates, the godfather of medicine, kind of had an inkling of that in his discussions of using exorcism as a placebo therapy for people that were dealing with mental illnesses back in ancient Greece times. So there's always been speculation about that. It's very important to understand it, though. We are the element to why things happen. If there were no humans, would there ever be ghosts, right? We have to think of that. People talk about animal spirits, right? Usually those animal spirits have a relation to the a ship to the person. If it's my dead cat Bonnie, right? I just made that up. I never had a dead cat called Bonnie, but if Bonnie was like my fur child and I loved her immensely, and she died, there would still be that tether of her to me that would probably allow some sort of interaction or feeling that Bonnie was still there. Because I always say, if ghosts could be separated from the ideology and the concept of humans, why aren't there no dinosaur ghosts? Because there was no relationship between dinosaurs and humans ever that we know of course. So there's no dinosaur ghost, even though they're prolific in the collective consciousness. People love their dinosaurs. Jurassic Park is a prime example, or a leading franchise. But we've never had an emotional connection to that kind of animal or beast, or creature. So there's never that communication or interaction with something that there was no emotional connection with, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Amanda says she loves how informative you are, right, Amanda? You can tell he's been doing this a while, right? Very good. She also has a question. What do you know about the book of Revelations?
Well, it's the book that spans three genres. It's the apocalyptic and prophetic aspect of the Bible. The tail end of it, right? A lot of people just kind of incited apocalypse with eclipse, which was absurd. But the Book of Revelations is interesting because it basically, I'm going to paraphrase because I'm awful at remembering things. I don't. I'm not like some of those ministers out there that can verbatim tell you the Bible from scratch to scratch. My mind just works too squirrely for that. So, but yeah, the Book of Revelations is interesting because we got Jesus is supposed to rise again, and the Antichrist is supposed to rise, and there's supposed to be some big epic battle that occurs between good and evil, and the yeah, there's so much to it. That I know it? Yes. How do I interpret it? Um, you know, at the end of the day, it could be something that happens. It is something that was told that would happen. But once again, I wasn't there to hear these stories when they were first written or first talked about. So yeah, I do take some things that are said in scripture, and somebody might take my Christianity badge away from me. But with a grain of salt. There is historical context in the Bible, and I think it's a great tool of your faith and religion. I think faith is more powerful than the religion aspect of it because faith is actually a component of our brain structure. We've done neurotheological studies and neuroscience studies on the brain, and when faith is thought of or it's incorporated, there are parts of our brain that fire off. So it is an important part of who we are as individuals. Faith is very strong, but sometimes we take things too literal, right? And we have to be careful of what's too literal and what could be interpreted. Will revelations ever happen? I do not know. I don't think that we will ever see any apocalyptic situation unless it's nuclear warfare by somebody stupid pressing a red button for a while. And if that does come to truth and a testament of to what's going to happen, it's going to be a long ways from now, unless we still keep going down a path of sin and treachery and turning against each other. We're all one human race. We always like to say there's many races, but in the anthropological viewpoint, race is a social construct. So we are all one being, we're all one people. And unless we don't stop realizing that, and keep going down a dark path, then maybe it'll come sooner. The world has been very hectic lately, but I think we also have had many ups and downs in human civilization for the past 250,000 years, and especially in more so the past 10,000 years, where we have a better understanding of modern civilization to a degree. So it's interesting. It is very interesting, the Book of Revelations, but I don't want to steal the whole show. Theologians have been debating the Bible and theology for thousands of years. So I could take this whole show, I could take the next 1,000 years talking about it, I think, but it would be proper to move on to the next question or something else.
Uh-oh. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Lena. And thank you, Amanda, for the stars tonight. Chris, if you want to get them in the bucket as well. And first one on my screen is Chuck with Q2 Hour, followed closely by Lewis. So, Chuck, you get the first prize in the bucket tonight, buddy. And I don't know what I'm going to give you. Let's see here. I'm going to give you the What's My Aura book. How's that? You can't probably see it, but that's yours, Chuck. You were the first winner tonight. All right. So, Amanda V had another question. Let me see if I can find it here. Um, what work have you done as a demonologist? So, is there any particular case that you want to mention, or any area, or any weird story?
Well, demonology is a loaded term. It's not a direct field of study. When you look at theology, there's 7 to 9 branches of it, and angiology is the branch demonology comes from. So it's a subfield of angiology. And you can be an academic demonologist in the sense of studying lore, such thing as the Goetta, the Pandemonium, the Malefice Metherium, which is the Hammer of Witches. You can read tomes and tomes and tomes of the topic of good versus evil. You can even get into theodicies with Epicurus of good versus evil. So there's the academic aspect of it, but I take the academia aspect of it. I do very in love. I'm in love with reading and learning new things and working with other demonologists and having debates or conversation with them. But I'm applied demonologist, so I take a lot of that academic study, those tomes, what has been really gathered for the past however long it's been a field of, which is a very long time. Um, and I really apply what people have observed or what people have dissected in the topic of uh, gods and goddesses becoming demons, or in the Christian sense, fallen angels. So, as a demonologist, I apply that study and apply my faith and utilize it as a means to be a mediator, right? A demonologist is not an exorcist, but an exorcist is a demonologist. I'm not an exorcist, never will claim to be. Even the Roman Catholic priest I work with, who's Father Bob Bailey, who is the co-founder of PWSM and our spiritual advisor, is not an exorcist. He's a Roman Catholic priest, though. But as a demonologist, I have been involved in many cases. A lot of my scope of work would be assessing. I basically am that mediator between a client and the church. I would gather all the data. I'll do my assessments, such as interviews, checking the environment, such as the house. What is applicably happening to these people if they're claiming possession? I will have them get psychological assessments. I will see them get a physical by their primary care doctor or some doctor that will do a primary a physical on them. And I gather all that, and then if they really are dealing with something, then I bring that to the proper people, such as an exorcist, or somebody that is connected with their faith, if it's Buddhist or if it's Islamic or if it's Judaic. I will bring it to somebody that is proper enough to handle it in what that person's faith is. But as, of course, somebody that's been formally ordained, I was a deacon. I'm no longer connected to the Catholic Church in that role. I as well know how to do blessings. And if I feel like it's something that I can do, I will do a blessing as well. Just to alleviate the issue. If it's something higher, I can do some battle and hopefully kind of digress the situation enough to get the right people in, like a priest such as Father Bob Bailey. But so I have a lot of roles, like I've been called into cases that I've then gave to MUFON because it was above my pay grade, where I feel like they actually were dealing with something otherworldly in the sense of physical. And then I also, have been involved with people citing cryptids and think it's something demonic or evil as well. And I don't to think I was. So I really have a large scope of work. I could talk about cases. The one thing I will tell you about my caseload is, out of the hundreds and hundreds of cases I've done for this longevity of my time in this, I've only come across 5 demonic cases. So it is a rarity, So my field expertise when it comes to true demons is very limited, beyond the academic aspect of it. But I have come across it. I definitely have seen it. I've definitely seen people possessed, honestly and earnestly, and had to deal with it. But yeah, no, so that's a little bit of what a demonologist is and what I do as a demonologist. But there are all the different spectrums of demonologists too. I'm an eclectic demonologist of a Christian background, so I've studied many multiple different religions, probably most of them that exist in the human society, and predate modern civilization as well. And so I observe it in a large lens than maybe a microscope. And so that's what I do. But there are other demonologists out there that just focus on one road, while I focus on many different roads and utilize my background. If that make it, I could talk about demonology and what a demonologist does for a long period of time. My job is not easy. That's all I can say. I have respect for a huge chunk of paranormal investigators because a lot of what they do is to a degree what I do by collecting data and assessing it and seeing how they can help that person. But I'm really like, while most paranormal teams will feel like they come across something evil, a good chunk of them will step back and then give it to the next person, and that next person is unfortunately me. And I say unfortunately because it's like, even though I do it, I don't like it in the sense because everybody would think that as a demonologist, I would want the next big demonic case to get that experience. But every day that I go without experiencing one, I'm thankful for it because it is a true battle. It takes a toll on me. It takes a toll on the people dealing with it. The term transference, which is a psychology term of like emotions being enacted on somebody else, that happens. As much as you do your best to put your armor on and have a good mindset, you're still gonna gather a little bit of what they've been dealing with. There are ramifications such as demonics retaliating against you. So it's just something that I pray every single day that I don't come across. But if I do, I know how to handle it in the sense that I know what I'm doing. It is for the right reason, and I am there to hopefully bring peace to the family through as a conduit, for my inclination of what I believe is my higher power. So to me, that's enough. And you might have another demonologist that says something different, and that's the good thing about having free will and having different many facets of the study. But that's me, and that's how I apply myself. And I'm very critical and analytical compared to a lot of my counterparts. And I'm not saying that badly to them, but I apply many different things in my approach than I have come across with other people.
I like to say that first off, I mean, our audience is fixated on the demonology thing, but not everything is a demon. A lot of time, 90% of the time, I'd say it's just a negative spirit because they can get grumpy. If they're grumpy here, they're grumpy there.
Hmm.
But it's not just something you can just woohoo and the demon's gone. It's not an sometimes it could take weeks. It could take a really long time and it's draining on you.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
months, years, even. So yeah, it is a battle, and it's a battle in the sense because, like you said, it's not a magic wand. Even though if I call upon God and I have unwavering faith, you have to instill that faith into the individual being affected. And if they're at a level of oppression or even at the stage of possession, their faith, their will, power, their well-being is such in a volatile state that you have to really pull that person through. And especially if they have traumas or physical issues, physical ailments, you really have to tackle those as well while tackling the spiritual aspect of it. Because if you don't make them whole, then yeah, you can get rid of it, but that doesn't mean that it won't attract it back again once they hit their rock bottom again. And so you'll heal people like Robert, who was Roland Doe, the Exorcist. He recently died a couple of years ago, but he led a prosperous life afterwards. He actually became a leading NASA scientist, came up with some great technology for NASA, but he lived a rigorous prayer life, faith life afterwards, and that's what kept him strong and unwavering from anything to retaliate again. Because they do say that once you rid a demon, it will come back stronger and will come back with friends. And that's not necessarily far fetched because it's like a predator, right? If we take the human aspect of evil, a serial killer, right? And I used to do a podcast with a leading criminologist called True Evil, and she interviews serial killers in San Quentin, and she had a show on her called based on the Toolbox Killers. And a lot of these serial killers, if their victim escaped, there could be a chance that they would stalk them again or get them again. Or if they ran, they would chase after them and get them. So a predator will attempt to get its victim again, because it feels defeat, or it feels that it didn't do enough the first time to get to its victim. So it tends to do come back stronger. So if you're not given the right tools, and also not willing to change your life, you will be affected again. And I've seen this even in negative spirits, people with attachments. Your attachment is only as good as you give it energy, and the more you feed into it, the more that you provoke it, the more that you speak to it, tell it to get away. You're opening a line of communication. Um, and that is enough for it sometimes to still linger around, right? The more that you give it, like I said, my battery analogy, the more that you energize it, the more it will provoke you as a person.
Yep. Okay, so Lewis wants to know, have you ever thought of writing a book?
Oh, many times, man. I will say that I've read a lot, and please, I'm not tarnishing anybody, but I've read a lot of books when it comes to the realm of paranormal. Many bad ones, and some great ones, and some good ones, but many bad. Because there's a lot of people that put pen to paper, have good intention of what they're writing, and have the experience, but the book is a god awful. It's a nightmare to read. A lot of grammatical errors. So every time I've put pen to paper, it just hadn't vibed. It didn't feel like I could put what was necessary out to put my name to it, and have a tome that people would respect, and go to like Pandemonium or King James Demonology. So yes, I will eventually write a book. I actually, when I was off Facebook for a year and a half, and now reinstated a new account, so I'm building a following again on Facebook platform. But I talked about being a psychology major. I graduate in August, and then I plan to go for my master's. My biggest debate was, do I write the book now, as a love letter to what I've done, a love letter to everybody else that I've read their book material and what I've experienced. And I really want to, because in essence, I want to write a tome of knowledge that will be used beyond my physical existence on this planet. And I want to deliver something that will be in colleges, or be in seminaries, and be distinguished in that form. So my plan is after I'm done with my master's program, as long as I'm able to do so, because of course you have to have a mentor to write your dissertation paper. But I plan to hopefully spin a dissertation paper into a book, that will be based on this topic, and based on the social science aspect of it, the theological aspect of it, and of course, an experience, and also kind of in a form an autobiography as well about my life, because I feel like my life has essence to why I do what I do and why I do help people. So I do plan to write one. It won't probably come out for a very long time. My master's probably another 2 to 4 years out, depending on how fast I want to trek through it. Let's say 4 years from August. So I would say within 10 years, I will have something hopefully out. But I'm a very big critic of myself. I don't like to put something out there that's not 100%. So it could be even longer than that. But before I die, knock on wood, before I die, I will have something out that I could be proud of, that others will be proud of, and that will enable a future of great people to utilize that to become better, hopefully.
Well, I definitely would buy that book, and I think a lot of people in our audience would buy that book as well. So, Michaela has a question. Have you ever had a case that was too much for you to handle?
Um, Not necessarily, and I don't say that to boast or be stoic. Like I said, my faith is unwavering. It has been for a very long time. I've had hiccups. I've had an attachment before because I let my ego get the best of me. I am human, but nothing that I ever felt like that I could not handle. or that was hard. Like I said, what's hard about it is that the emotion is there. If families are involved, children are involved, it's difficult. So that is the hardest pill to swallow. But I feel like if you can enable faith in anybody, even accomplishing goal requires faith. You have to have faith in yourself to accomplish that goal. So if you can enable that in somebody to overcome that, the more difficult parts are enabling those people. That to me is the more difficult aspect of it. Are enabling that people to listen, utilize the tools or the toolbox I give them to continue forward with their life. That's always been the hardest point, because for one, I am very straightforward. So some people don't relate to the way I come off, and that's a difficulty. So sometimes I have to get other people involved to communicate the same way, but in a different way, in a different form of utilizing different words, because I'm not as archaic. And I don't say this badly about like Ralph Sarchi. I love Ralph Sarchi; he's a great friend of mine. But the way he comes off is way more pungent than I am. And I know it's been hard for him in past cases to get people to twist, because if you don't listen to him, he will walk away. While for me, it's harder for me to walk away, because I I come so invested in these people that I feel that I can help them, but there are times that I have to walk away, have walked away, and those are the hardest. And those were demonic cases, or negative spirits, or something thought formish, or even people that were dealing with mental illness that couldn't overcome the hurdle that it was them. And you never have to spin it the way that they're crazy or it's them purposely, because a lot of people that have some sort of mental disorder doesn't really understand to the full degree of what's going on. So that's the hardest part of my job. But every demonic case, to a levity of it, is hard, just because of what you have to deal with. You have to always keep your guard up. If you have family, you have to worry about them being affected, which has happened for other people in the past. Like I said, you also have to keep your ego at check. Self-confidence and ego can be used positively, but you always have to have a humble nature to yourself. And those are the hardest parts of being about a human, living a certain way. I fell off that saddle quite a few times, and picking yourself up fast and understanding your mistakes is, to me, is the hardest part of what I do. Because if I don't pick myself up fast and I don't correct my ways fast, and then I will be greatly affected. I do believe, and I do believe the people that I love, my friends, family, could be affected as well. And that's always hard to digest every single day of my life that I'm involved in this. But I also don't have a level of fear, because if I had fear, then I will attract. It's laws of attraction. I will if I fear, then something will come and utilize that fear against me.
Yeah, fear is a very low vibrational energy, and, when you're putting out that type of energy, that's what you attract, like the law of attraction. So okay, so Miss Clogger says,
Yeah.
"Just because the person was rid of the demon, chances are it will happen again to the same person?"
Not always, not always. It really depends on how the person accumulates that toolbox, right? So, like, if they are willing to listen, they could have a good chance. Like, I had a family that I dealt with in Western Massachusetts, two husband and wife and kids, and I do believe there was demonic infestation there, and just because of a nightmare I had, and there was an off feeling about the premise of the house. And I did have to go back one time to kind of reinstill their faith, but really that was kind of one and done, and they were over able to overcome that hurdle. But it is also easier to overcome an infestation stage than it is oppression and possession, and that's where, like I said, the willpower is at a battle, right? So if their willpower is still wavering, in the sense that once you leave from the premise or a person, and they're not willing to pick themselves up and change themselves, then there is a good chance that it will not good chance, it will come back most likely. So that's the difficulty, is you have to train the person as well, and that's the hardest. Like I said, that's the hardest part of my job, is training the individual to change their livelihood. If you live 30 years one specific way, and you deal with this accumulation of your 30 years because of the way you lived your life, it is hard to change that person's mindset of how they've lived to live somehow new and different. Change is hard for people. It is of course possible, but it is hard for people.
We
All right.
helped the
Go ahead, Chris.
we helped the family, and that was the hardest thing, to get the gentleman and his family to understand that they had to change what they thought.
Yeah.
All right, one more question, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your paranormal group. Leno says sometimes people are placed on medication by a doctor due to some beliefs. Do you think this helps or hinders the person being affected by a spirit?
Well, social science is a developing field, right? There's a lot of theories in social science. There are a lot less empirical facts to social science than there are applied science or natural science. So it's hard when somebody is claiming something, right? And they are exhibiting disorders. We all could read the DSM-5 and we'd all find something that we could relate to. We'd probably all have disorders, right? So, when we are exhibiting a disorder that can be aided by medicine, it could help the situation, but it also, and some medications do change the chemicals of our brain, right? And how it's utilized. So that could also be a pathway for something to even get worse. But like I say, where people have psychological issues, that doesn't denote that fact that they could be dealing with something paranormal or demonic, right? But to handle the demonic or the spirit, the negative spirit, or something that's hindering them, you have to tackle the physical aspect or the mental aspect of it first and foremost, or together, as a trifecta: mind, body, and spirit or soul. You have to tackle that in a domino effect, or all at once, for that person to become better. And sometimes that's them being on medications. Like if a schizophrenic believes they're dealing with something, they need to go on medication to see if the subvert of reality changes. And if it changes, but they're still dealing with phenomena, and the psychiatrist does not know why they're still exhibiting certain behaviors, then that is interesting. But you always have to tackle the physical before you jump to the preternatural. You want to check those boxes off first, because there's so much that can be explained before you jump to something that's unknown and unnatural to our understanding. So medicine can help, but it also could be detrimental if it's also wrongly prescribed. And it's not a political show, but I don't have a big love for big pharma. And you could also try holistic approaches as well. There are a lot of vitamins and a lot of other certain techniques you can use, such as magnesium for stress and anxiety. And you can try those routes on a holistic approach, which have been used in Eastern cultures for thousands of years. So you can try that approach too and see if that's beneficial to you. But make sure that you're also reaching out to the proper people for help. And somebody like myself will give those proper pathways, but it is for you to will be willing to listen. There's so many people that I've had to walk away from, that say, yes, I've had trauma, I was abused physically, or I had drug addiction. Yes, I'm over it, but I still have a addictive personality where I think about it, which is a very hard thing. So when I present to them that, if you're not seeing a psychiatrist or therapist or psychologist, I really behoove you to do so. And if you don't do so, that I can't help you further. And there's a lot of people that say, you think I'm crazy, and it's not generally the gist. There are crazy people out there. That's unfathomable. But if you're not willing to listen to me and take that extra step yourself, then I can't take that extra step to help you, because you're not willing to help yourself and listen to my advice. You called me, or a team that you have rapport with called me in for a reason. It's because they believe in my ability, they believe in my knowledge, and it has to be respect has to be reciprocated.
So that leads me into the next question. So you do help not only um, homeowners, families, businesses, but you also reach out to people like us, like teams, right?
Yeah, I work with other teams, or teams work with me. Prime example, I have a career, right? I've been in the construction field for 10 years. I'm a project manager, and I know a lot about plumbing. I know a lot about mechanical, such as HVAC and all that fun stuff. I've learned a lot of other different things about house structure. But let's say, because the paranormal doesn't pay me, I do have a full time job. I am a parent of two. If there's a case far beyond yonder that I can't get to within a week, 2 weeks, or a month, if there's a local team that I respect and have a good rapport with, and I know that they will handle the case a certain way, yes. Excuse me. I will handle the case over to that team to be that mediator until I'm able to be involved. But there's a good chunk of times where that team goes in, assesses it, gathers the data, get nothing, or they feel like it's far fetched, and they tell me, like, James, I wouldn't even waste your time. We'll go back there again to validate. Just because sometimes one investigation does never elicit data, because if it is a demonic, it is going to be very deceptive. It is going to be very methodic to not really make its presence known, because a demon is primarily misunderstood. Everybody thinks that they'll boast out, be stoic, and puff their chest out and say, "I'm here," but it's not the case. They're actually it's very it's very, I like to call them ninjas. They hide and lurk in the shadows. They strike when you least expect it, and so if they also will understand that there's somebody there to discern or understand what is there, so they will hide in the shadows. So sometimes one time is not good enough, so sometimes they'll go back just to validate their belief. And sometimes in the second time they get nothing, and the third time they'll get nothing, and maybe the fourth time they will. But yeah, I do work with teams because I don't have a chopper. I don't have an airplane that just flies me around doing what I need to do. So if I feel like those people are, in my own kindness and my own heart, feel like that they're in some kind of harm's way, or if there's children involved,
Yeah.
yes, I will get somebody there ASAP if it's not me, because I don't want people to harm themselves. I don't want children to be harmed or to be led down the wrong path. There's a lot of people that I've unfortunately dealt with that have made the psychic drama involved with their children, where their children they're not dealing with anything, but they proactively make their children involved, make the children scared, and that to me is detrimental to the child's well-being and development. And if I don't nix it at the in the butt right away, then I feel those children will as deal with the same traumas that many of us have dealt with in our childhood, and I don't want that to happen. So yeah, I work with teams throughout. I also run my own team, PWSM, which I said which is ran with Father Bob Bailey. Mike Hatcher is our researcher. Tom Donahue is our investigator. Jamie Gordon is our case manager. Barbara Cole Brown is our nurse slash investigator. We have a nurse on staff. And then we have Michelle Clark, I believe is her last name. I forget. She's totally bad. She's our administrator slash prayer director. And I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anybody, but that's our team. We're a regional team to New England. I forgot the co-founder, Father Bob Bailey, who's a Roman Catholic priest. He's retired, but he still has his faculties. He still has obedience to the bishop. But yeah, no, I work with them. It is a great honor to work with Father Bob. Some people might recognize his name because he was on 13 episodes of Paranormal State, and
That
was
is
on.
my favorite show, like Paranormal State was
Mhm.
my favorite.
So he was on Paranormal State, and he was on many episodes of The Haunted, and I believe an episode of A Haunting as well. So it's a great honor to work with him. He founded PWSM 20 something years ago. He's been in ministry for 31 years, but he founded it 20 years ago with a man named Rob Jacobs. They went on a hiatus. One for Father Bob having health issues. Rob moved away, and then me and Father Bob have been friends for about over 10 years. We kind of distance away as life does to people. And when we reconnected, I said, "Hey, Father Bob, would you like to rekindle this? Would you like to make a revolution of this, an evolution of this, and reform this?" And he said, "Yes." He's been following me for how many ever years. He's seen me grow as a person within my knowledge, and it's a perfect union to two different people that do have very similar backgrounds, but also have different experiences. And I can't say anything more great about the whole team in general. We have a great team. I see that you have our poster up there. I made the one on the left. The one on the right is our new banner, made by Mike Hatcher, very talented. I gotta plug him, graphic design work. Talk to Mike Hatcher, right? But no, yeah, definitely. PWSM is back. And we are trying our best to do grassroots with other team to when you need somebody's services that is respectable and reliable, come to us, because unfortunately there are a lot of people that have good intentions in this field but do the wrong thing, and go the wrong way about things. I never tell a client there's a demon in their house or a demon within them. I never utter that word. But there are teams that throw that term willy-nilly around, make the situation worse. There are other great teams out there, so I'm not saying we are end all be all of any group out there. But we are a deliverance ministry, a deliverance group that have a great amount of experience, not just between Father Bob and I, but our whole team.
Chris, do you have anything you'd like to say? You've been so quiet tonight.
No, I'm good right now.
It's so hard getting him to talk. But I have thrown jamespwsm.org, the site link, in the chat. And also, for those of you who like to scan codes, his site is up on the top left-hand corner. All you have to do is scan QR code, and it will take you to his paranormal website. Also, if you'd like to find his general website, it's at the bottom. You can also scan that code, and I will pop that up in the chat as well so that you have the actual link. Let's see here.
What's fascinating about that photo too? Chris has the replica of the doll from the movie. That's the real Annabelle in the background.
Yeah, right. You got to chill with the real Annabelle,
I,
right?
I actually got to bless the museum,
Oh,
and I've been around Annabelle probably 8 times, 7 times. I have worked closely with Nesper in the past on cases or in consultation, or even speaking at their convention, the Warrens Paracon, Seekers of the Supernatural. So I've had a pleasure to work with them.
that's
I was going to
amazing.
ask you. I was going to ask you how the interaction was with her.
To be honest with you, I don't have any clear ability. Yes, I have like the gift of discernment. I do believe where I can discern between good and evil. To be honest with you, I say this respectably, I never felt anything off of her. I know people have. I didn't. Even when was blessing the museum, nothing heinous happened. I never had a bad meeting with Annabelle. And I also think that has something to do with my mindset, because I'm very, even in my cases, I'm very neutral oriented, right? Like I don't think going in the worst. Yes, I have plans, but I don't think going in the worst. I'm very neutral on how I approach a situation, and I'm very also in the sense of like raising levity, right? So with my cases, I create a lot of positive laughter. Like I make the clients laugh. I say stupid shit. I'm sorry, stupid crap.
You're good, man.
But you said no profanity, so I excuse my language. But so my experiences with Annabelle, I think I respected her, and I didn't have the thoughts of her being evil in my head, so that laws of attraction wasn't there. So I never had a bad experience with her, and it's the same. I've been to the Conjuring house a plethora of times. I knew the 3 past owners. I know Jacqueline. I knew the of course I knew the parents. Not when they lived there. I knew Corey and Jen, and then I also knew Norma, and been there many times. And it's the same thing. People have bad experiences there, but I go there with a neutral mindset. Never had a bad experience there. Yeah, it had activity. I wouldn't call it bad, but I think once again, using the battery analogy for the third time, I think it's what you energize it as, right? If I started provoking Annabelle or thinking bad thoughts about it, then maybe I would have a different interaction with her. And same thing with the Conjuring House or many other places that I've been around the country and, of course, the world as well.
That's one thing we always tell everybody. You have to go in with a proper mindset.
Yeah, that's important.
One last time, guys. First one to say Q2 hour on our screen gets a cup.
I want a cup.
you want a scream queen cup?
I sure the hell do.
All right,
What's the
guys.
other one?
The other one is King Jack, I believe. Yeah, King Jack.
Ooh, that one's ooh.
Jack
I,
Skeleton.
I might have to talk to you after this about a cup.
All right. So the first one on my screen is Missy Hardman. Missy Hardman, you are getting the Scream Queen cup, my dear. All right, guys. So any last questions for James before we move on to our drawings for the night? Anybody have last minute questions? Again, there's this website. Scan the QR code. Put that on the bottom there. Any last questions? They're all saying congratulations. Okay, Chris, let's go ahead and do the drawing for we're gonna do 2 more cups, and we're gonna do a Mother's Day gift card, so 3 people are gonna be pulled out of the bucket. If you shared the live tonight, if you shared any of our promos this week, you're in this bucket. If you sent us stars, you're in this bucket.
Come here. Come here.
First one is Amanda V.
Amanda V. Okay, Amanda V, you are getting a Scream Queen cup. Congratulations, Amanda. One more, getting the King Jack cup.
Shelley Neeson.
I thought you were gonna say my name. All right, Shelly, you have won that cup. Sometimes people call me Shelly. All right, and
Hey,
one more.
look behind James. He's got your dog.
Oh, I see. All right, one more name, Chris. This is for a $10 gift card for Mother's
Montana
Day.
Miller.
Montana Miller. That's a new one. Congratulations. Make sure I have your email address if you catch the replay or you're in here. You are the Scream Queen, Amanda. All right. So, one more question from one of our star senders. Is it possible to have a ghost who loves to joke?
Oh yeah, for sure. The trickster spirits. Oh, definitely. I've come across many of them. To be honest with you, for sure. Like you said, if you're negative in life and you die, and you still linger somehow because you're not happy with yourself, you have something to get your off your chest. You know, if you somehow linger here and you were jokester living, you're going to be a jokester in death. It just comes in nuance. You know, it's just going to happen. And that's what's going to happen to me if I somehow tethered to this world for some damn reason. I'm going to joke with everybody. I'm gonna do some crazy stuff. I can't wait to mess with people if that's what happens. If it doesn't, I go into the white light. Then great, whatever. But you know, it'll be great to mess
Right.
with a
Chris
few
is
people.
definitely going to be a jokester when you pass over, right, Chris?
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah. All right, James, any last words for our audience? I thank you so much for coming on. You've been so great. I can tell you've done this a lot, my friend, but I do respect you. I can tell you know your stuff. So thank you so much for coming on our show. Our fans had a great time.
Thank you for having me. You put my website, you also put PWSM's website. It's in work right now. So you can follow me on Facebook by my name. And then also go to Presidium Warriors of St. Michael Facebook page. It's where we communicate right now. I also am a sucker. But I always say, you respect me, I respect you. I give my number out 401-808-7416. If you are in need of help, please contact me, text me first, and so I know who it is and why you're contacting me. But if you are really in need of help, I'm here, and we
So there
I
you
will do
go.
my
You
best.
have James's phone number in case you need some help. All right, guys. So we are coming to the end of the show tonight. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Good night.